Sorry, I just wanted to make really a bit of a comment. We need to be a bit careful with this carbon credit, etc. That you're really looking at new build. What you need to be giving is giving credit for people that don't demolish the building. If you don't demolish the building, what about the retained carbon that's in the structure that you're refurbishing? You're not getting the credit for that. And the danger is that you'll be saying to people, right, we'll just demolish the whole lot, then I can, get my credits. I can build a building that is not zero carbon, because I don't think you can do it in Westminster, but you get a much better, higher carbon ability, or a lower carbon level by building new than you can by doing the refurbishment, which is much more sustainable, or is a sustainable method of development.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of following on from that, got to be careful about yet another charge on development, which could become counterproductive, that developers may say, well, we're having to pay for Crossrail, we're having to pay for public realm, we're having to pay for this, that and the other. Suddenly development is either postponed, deferred, or doesn't take place at all, and you don't get the carbon benefit of the new scheme, if there indeed there is a carbon benefit. The second thing is to allow flexibility, because what we don't want to do is have buildings or sites or schemes going ahead which could be exemplary, but they actually scale it back because there's no actual benefit in pushing that through.
Okay, thank you.
The last couple of points. Firstly, there's a balance between do you spend your money on insulation or do you spend it on technology or district heating systems, things like that. It sort of strikes me that there's a very, very easy win, which is just like don't waste what you already have. I think it's been touched on with regard to water and various other things, and it's a sort of understandable, measurable thing right now. And I think someone else said, that it is a sort of a time-critical thing, because the parts per million of CO2 don't seem to be waiting for us to catch up. Second point really was there's discussion about, well, should we retain buildings and reuse buildings? I think, or rebuild them. Pretty straightforward, really, to sort of work out the carbon benefits over time. Some buildings are fantastically reusable. Some are really never going to work. And over time, the embodied energy is either going to pay for, justify the retention of the building or not. And I think the fact is it can all be equated to carbon one way or another. It should be a fairly easy judgment to make if you're making the judgment purely on sustainability.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to echo the viability point for developers, but also that I suppose one of the risks, although obviously there's a lot of embodied energy in existing buildings and reusing them has a lot of environmental and sustainability benefits. I suppose one of the risks of themed workshops is that perhaps we lose sight of some of the other benefits of redevelopment. For example, if this was a housing workshop, it might be that people were talking about redevelopment having the ability to provide affordable units where there wasn't affordable units previously, or being able to provide new residential accommodation with amenity space where there wasn't previously, or improving the townscape. So before we plunge headfirst into a policy that seeks to retain existing buildings, maybe it's more of a holistic consideration about other benefits of redevelopment, but that perhaps haven't been touched on in this specific session.
Okay, thank you.
Might I ask a question? Is any work being done at all on the geothermal type of sources of energy? Not the kind where you dig up half an acre and put pipes down at 12 foot, but the kind that you put down with a single rod. Because there is space between the railway lines and the sewers and so on, even in Westminster. And it's extraordinarily effectively efficient. And we have Imperial College Science and Technology there. All we need is a sponsor, isn't it?
Perhaps, Mike, did you want to?
I think it's a question of quite which technology you had in mind. Geothermal in terms of deep, hot rocks, as is used in Southampton, suits certain kinds of geology. I understand areas of Devon and Cornwall it suits and is being looked into. I'm not sure the geology of London has that capability. But
Have we asked the question?
I'm fairly sure it hasn't, but I'm happy to check. But if you're talking about ground source heat pumps, there's potential, and there are existing schemes in Westminster, and there's plenty of interest in that.
If they're deep enough and large enough, they're effective. But
Yes.
the geothermal, if we had the right kind of rocks, which
If we
I
have the
don't know
right
about,
kind of rocks, yes,
would be very much less expensive and physically much more
Yes.
attractive.
yes. If, but we're over chalk, a chalk layer rather than a.
Who could doubt that?
All right. With that, I think we'll have a break. If we come back about 25 past, that'll give everyone plenty of time to get a cup of tea and maybe have a chat. Thank you very much.